person to be part of a group like this, where they're moving in their own way with their original group, but then they set up a group, and then people within their group set up groups. And that's the way we envision this happening, because the power of it is if it takes off, and takes off across civilization as a way to inspire participative democracy. And that's really what we're aiming at. And you know, it's pretty easy to find me on the political spectrum, but what we try to do with this is not run it in a hierarchical, I'm here and you all have to follow way. It's really the person who's facilitating it, myself, is meant to hold more or less a neutral space where all voices can be heard. And the design of it is such that it doesn't matter. The voices are not going to fall into a polarized battle. And that's just the design of the structure. And instead, what happens is that we build an inspired place, and everybody's inspired, left, right, and center. Everybody's inspired. And then we look at what the obstacles, and then we look at action steps and commitments. And so we go from that inspiration to the difficult places. We call this, in the 7 stages work that I'm known for, kind of the hero's journey, diving into the difficult places, the dark places. And then we move out from that into action steps. And Nandish was at a beautiful, wonderful Golden Civilization conversation that we did in England. Jillian, not far from you, over at Coventry. I don't think you were at his particular event, but in that event we have action steps come out, and then commitments afterwards. So it moves from an inspirational place to the challenges, because we're all wary. We all see what's been happening politically and economically and health-wise and everything, and we all feel the burdens of that and the scare of that. And so we move into the obstacles, but then we say, okay, what do we got to do for action steps? And I'll show you the flip charts. Most of you have seen the flip charts, and we just work from flip chart to flip chart very simply. And at the end, people come up with inspired actions. First of all, what they think, you know, the government should do, or the UN should do, or their community should do, or their, you know, particular book club group should do. But then they come up with what their personal commitments are. And those are usually inspiring and unique, idiosyncratic, unusual, because that's what democracy is all about. That's what is great about humanity, is that each of us has something very special to go for and to deliver. And so we kind of celebrate that. And so even if there's political divide, it may be that 5 people are working over here on market-based solutions, 4 people over here are working over here on government-based solutions, 1 person's meditating up in the Himalayas, 3 others are working on homeless, and half a dozen are working to solve the environmental problem in a variety of ways. And so but what happens is we just celebrate. Everybody's working. Wonderful, what a wonderful, we're all bringing that, those seeds of knowledge to bear on civilization. And the notion is, if we can make this happen, that we can work our way toward having political influence as well, but in this non-hierarchical way that's participative, a participative democracy. So I think I'll start with that. I'm going to come back and just do a little brief meditation, but I want to see if anybody wants to share anything or has any questions about that. So we'll spend an hour and a half kind of diving in to that, into the structure of a conversation and looking at the flip charts. And if any of you have done one recently, we'd love to hear about it. And if not, we'll just explore from a group that did do one a few weeks ago with us. So any questions or comments on what you would like? And anybody want something else out of this meeting?
I'll jump in there, George. Just because this quote came to me yesterday, and I thought, oh, I've got to write this down for the Golden Civilization, but it's from one of your favorites, William Blake.
Oh.
What is now proved was once only imagined.
Yeah, that's my dear friend, Mr. Blake. Wonderful. Yeah, thank you, Mary. Great. Anybody else?
So George, yeah, I'd like to say this. We are all given to focus on the negative. Part of it's because our newspapers are filled with negative stuff. Yep. My psychologist's wife calls that we Velcro to the negative and we Teflon to the positive. And I know I do it too. My wife calls me the great awfulizer, but then I get over it and then I get, maybe a little bit of wisdom to get out of it. So since I recognize that trend in myself, I am committed to, whenever I meet with people, to go big. And big is an acronym because I work on acronyms. That's how I can remember stuff. It stands for begin in gratitude. Because I also do the joy-filled stuff, but that's for some people too Buddhisty. But beginning gratitude, everybody gets that right away. It's simply a way to focus and hold on to stuff that is good. What is good right now in your life? Because I talk to many people, clients all day long, and I ask them, okay, this is good, you're locked down, and maybe somebody's sick and your job it's a challenging situation, but tell me something that is good. So I don't know. I said, well, you're alive. You're talking to me. So that's a good thing because I'm happy talking to you now. These are all little things, but people really seem to get that. And now I constantly try to focus on what is good and I try to be a little bit of a breath of fresh air, focusing on positive things whenever I meet with anybody. Doesn't need to be a client, can be somebody on the street, can be somebody in the store. So go big. It's just for myself to remember to begin in gratitude.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Martin, thank you very much. Lovely. Lovely. We'll all go big today. That's great. So anybody else before I begin and go through the program? Okay. Well, Laura, I'm wondering if we might share the flip charts first and then come back and look briefly at the map of mindfulness, just to give it a place. So Laura's going to share the screen for a moment, and we're just going to look at it for a moment, and then we're going to come back to each other. And so that's how we're going to be moving back and forth between all of us together and these screens. So the first one is of the flip charts, and there are 3 flip charts that you'll see now in front of you, just coming up. They are, as you will see, this is a good blank one to work from. So you'll see that the Golden Civilization has these 3 elements that I've already spoken to. So I'm not going to speak further right now, but I just want you to know that that's where we're headed. We're headed to create an incredible vision. That's what we do in these meetings. And then we identify the obstacles, as Martin says, the dark side. And so let's show it blank for now, and we'll show it filled in a minute or two. And so we get real there, because as Martin says, we're addicted to this stuff. So it's important that it be out there. But what's unique about this structure is that it's balanced on one side by the inspiring vision and balanced on the other side by inspiring action. So this movement is moving toward action and to making a difference in the world. And so you'll see on the right-hand side, you see actions that are global, national, local, group, and individual actions, and then commitments. So one of the beauties of this work is that we close with commitments, which is, just again, inspiring, because we get individual commitments. Not everybody will be able to make an individual commitment, but 3 or 4 are enough to get the group inspired. It's nice to get many, and you should have your own lined up if you're going to lead one of these. But 3 or 4 are enough to get the group inspired. So let's go, Laura, well, before we go to Map of Mindfulness, let me just say that one of the things that that my good friend, Mary and my good friend, Ed Jacobson, dearly beloved, who's deceased at this point, said when we started this whole process of leading Golden Civilization conversations, he said, George, you've got to ground it in some kind of interior, inner, or spiritual practice. Because without that, it's just going to get political. You're going to get all kinds of the polarization coming up. And ultimately, it won't work because it's not grounded in ethics, in virtue, and integrity, in authenticity, and the best things that we stand for as human beings. So I love that he said it, and I was going to do it anyway. But the wonderful thing about giving tribute to Ed for this is that it's something that he would have said. And throughout my lovely engagements with Ed over 25 years, he would nudge me in places where I was going to do something, but maybe there was a part of me holding back a little bit, and he just said, nope, do it. And so here he is, the great coach, Ed Jacobson, having an influence. So what I'm going to start this time, you don't have to start it. You can just start it with a minute of silence if you want. You can start it with, if you're coming into a religious or spiritual community, you can start it with something that's contemplative from that community. I usually start it with a very simple mindfulness meditation, just going inside and working with the breath, and then moving toward the virtues that we're actually accumulating in those programs, in that approach. Here, I'm just going to show you briefly my map of mindfulness. And Bill, from your standpoint, this is something you haven't seen yet, but the map of mindfulness is one of the innovations in the Golden Civilization book. And there's a very strong argument in it that we've mismapped the universe and mismapped it because the time and space is not the way we actually experience things. We don't experience moments in the past. And my trick question is, how many of you have experienced a moment of freedom in the past? And I get everybody to raise their hands, and then I say, it was a trick question, you all got it wrong. Nobody has ever experienced a moment of freedom in the past. We've only experienced them in the present moment. And this was a powerful insight for me. I know that it's something we've all thought of since we were children, probably, this notion, and just gone, well, so what, and all that. But it made me realize that maybe the map we have of the universe is wrong and is inadequate in some way. So I've made this map that creates the center of kind of the universe as being the present moment. So it's like an hourglass, or it's like in gravitational physics, it's like a black hole, white hole configuration. And my experience is that when we really focus on the present moment, that what we're doing is we're learning to listen. So this is a beautiful thing for those of you who come from the life planning community. We're learning to listen better. Mindfulness is really what I call in one of my books, it's just inner listening. It's just listening really to ourselves and learning from that book of wisdom, hopefully, inside ourselves. So, but in the basic mindfulness practice that I teach and that others teach, that's the predominant one in scientific journals these days, it's an approach to feeling the breath in each moment, letting go of thoughts, and just returning again and again to experiencing the breath. That experience does some pretty astonishing things. And you'll see I have great peace down below. We have time and space up above. If you can just remember that, Laura, bring us back to the group. Thank you. What focusing on the present moment does, it does a couple of things. One is that we're listening inside ourselves and making our listening skill more and more subtle, and more aware, and more awake, and more present, more and more alert. So it's a pretty extraordinary thing, what's going on inside of us. All these studies have said we'll have less stress. Our test scores on SATs and everything will go up. Our kindness will increase. Our generosity of spirit will increase. Many virtues increase. I think courage is one of them that increases. Longevity, the telomeres lengthen. So there's all these great benefits to it. But the way I understand it, just experientially, is we get more alert because we're more present. Each moment, we're there. We keep coming back. We keep coming back. So our alertness strengthens and strengthens. And I think of it as awakening, that we become more and more awake. And normally, so one of the things that happens is that we become much more alert, much more awake, and much more capable of engaging in that oval of time and space from an awake place, from an alert place. Very helpful if we're trying to create a golden civilization and there's polarity around us or darkness around us. But the other thing that's wonderful that it does, in addition to kind of waking us up, it also, every time we meet just bare sensations, what occurs is that we're cultivating as well selflessness. Because the only way we can meet the present moment is without a story going on about, gee, I did that well, and that reminds me of the last time I did it, and if only I can do that in the future. We are here in the present moment. There's no self that is out there in time and space. We're just right here. And so what's actually happening is that we're also diminishing all the selfing stories that go on, and they're one of the things that stress us, is having too much of that in our life. So what happens is that then we have access to that bottom oval, which is, I call great spirit, I call it virtue, I call it great peace. And that's just simply because we've deconditioned the self. So two wonderful things. And when I lead a meditation, and we'll just do it briefly here, just for a few minutes, going into a golden civilization, I always come out reminding people of the qualities that they've just used to do the practice, or the qualities that they've just experienced in the practice. So I'll remind people about the kindness they've experienced with themselves, the equanimity to all the different things that are coming up in their life, the moments of tranquility that they've experienced, the generosity of spirit of not going out racing and attaching to things. I'll remind them of their ability to focus and be flexible. And I'll say, let's bring all of those qualities now to bear on this conversation that we're going to have together, because sometimes we can press each other's buttons. So just so you know, that's the structure. Just going into the present moment of the breath, and then at the end, recognizing that there's some virtues that have been accumulated during this practice. Any question there before we do this and then go to the golden civilization approach? Okay, good. So let's do this. I recommend sitting closed-eyed. We'll just do it for a few minutes. And closed-eyed to stop all of the external stimulus that we get pulled by so much.
Where were you?
Let's see, so I'm going to mute Martin in case that's Martin. Yes, I think it is. So, so finding the first thing is just a posture that feels comfortable and at ease, and making a commitment to coming back to just the physical sensations that we feel, starting with the experience of being in the body. And so one of the things that we're doing is and this is true for all forms of meditation, or nearly all, and that is we're letting go of random thoughts. Whatever thoughts are there, we just let them go. And come back to being aware and awake, moment by moment, with these sensations in our body. And then moving from those sensations to the repetitive frame of the breath. And usually I follow the breath at the nostrils or at the belly. Those are the two most common places. But wherever you feel the breath palpably, wherever moment by moment it's informing you. And at first, just resting in the rhythm of the breath, just relaxing, allowing whatever sensations might be manifesting with the breath to manifest, not trying to control it, not trying to make it quiet or slow it down, just allowing it to be as it is. But noticing, listening, experiencing each moment freshly. So bringing this quality of equanimity to the breathing, but also an alertness of focus and concentration, really interested in each moment, knowing that the breath is bringing you in this way to presence, to the present moment, to experiencing yourself without the mediation of thought and attachments. And being patient when you see that the mind wanders, just bringing it back to your focus. Bringing a touch of kindness, if that helps, to these moments of sensation. Feeling the peace that develops, the ease when we let go of our attachment to our concerns. And then as we come out in a minute or so, just reminding yourself that this quality of listening without judgment, without attaching to opinions, this quality of just listening and accepting, this patience with ourselves, and the equanimity and ease that we feel along with the alertness are exactly what we want for this conversation of participative democracy and a golden civilization. So when you're ready, open your eyes and come back. And so I'm going to pause there again before we go, because I want to give you all opportunities to ask questions. Any questions about what we just did, that segment of it, and then we'll go to the 3 charts of the Golden Civilization conversation. Any questions? How was it sitting there like that?
Peaceful.
Peaceful, yeah. And Nandish, I know you have another, is it Nandish or Nandish?
Nandish.
Nandish. You have another practice. You have a meditation practice that's slightly different. Do you go back and forth between them, or do you just settle into whatever meditation practice is there?
Yeah, whatever I feel fits, whatever I feel that gives the most peace and the most tranquility at the moment, I sort of just merge in between the two.
Yeah, wonderful, great. When I gave the Golden Civilization conversation at Coventry that time when Nandish was there, what was astonishing to me was that I looked all over the group. There's nearly 100 people there. It was really quite a wonderful community, and believe it or not, a business school. I mean, that was one of the things that was kind of stunning. And they were all entrepreneurial and so excited about this. But Nandish was sitting just about in the front row.
Yeah.
And yeah, right. And he went into the meditation even before I started doing it. And nobody else kind of had the clue that he did. And it was quite clear he had an established practice. So it was quite wonderful to see. You gave me great courage in those moments, Nandish. Thank you. So any other questions or comments before we go on? No? Okay. So, Laura, let's put those three charts up again. Well, before we do, let's just think here. And Laura and Mary, maybe you want to say something too, if you feel like contributing, do, because both Mary and Laura have participated in many Golden Civilization conversations. I think what I'd like to do is show you the vision chart as a group designed their own vision. This was about 4 weeks ago, about a month ago. And show it to you so fully formed. But if you were leading a group, you would have this empty circle up there and you say, okay, what would be in your golden civilization? So I guess there are different ways of framing that question. And the way I usually frame it is, let's assume that, go, if you need to, go out 1,000 years, go out 1,000 generations, but assume we've arrived. I want you to live into that. Sometimes I do this in the meditation as well. I want you to live into that dream of what that golden civilization looks and feels and tastes like, everything about it, and assume that it's just here. We've made it happen. Dodge the bullets of the early 21st century. We made it happen. So the question is then, what is it like? What's there? And some people, as Martin described earlier, they're having trouble getting out of the obstacles. And if they're too much in the obstacles, we just frame the opposite. Take them to the opposite, because that's clearly the opposite is what the golden civilization conversation would be. But most people begin to come up with qualities and qualities from inside themselves, qualities they'd like to see outside themselves, institutional qualities, all these different things. And it's lovely. It's really lovely. And it's similar, not always identical, but similar from culture to culture all over the world. So I'd like you to think what it would be in yours that would be there, the top maybe 2 or 3 things. And then maybe Laura will just take that one chart and show them and just see if people have something that isn't up there, maybe we can add it. I don't know if Laura can do that. She can. She's a magician. All right. So here we are. And why don't you take a minute and skim through that and just see. And see if it includes the things you would have had in there. And I will say there is something, this group was a more left-leaning than most groups. Less business, less conservative, and more meditation amongst them. So there may be some things, that you see that they wouldn't see. See if that's true. for the most part, as I say, the visions echo all the way across cultures.
I have a thought.
Yeah, great.
One thing that should be added to that, and it complements a lot of this, is music.
Fantastic. Now, for some reason, my screen, because I'm just showing, I only get to see 6 of you in my expanded screen. Can we come back to all of us together and have Laura put these extra things in on her own? Yeah, great. So was that Bill who spoke? Or was that
Yes.
Bill? Fantastic. Lovely.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's put music in. Great, great. Anything else that you didn't see up there that you would have had?
That's pretty much everything I could think of on that.
Beautiful. Anybody else?
Having done a couple of these, Bill, I was so happy that you mentioned music, because I'm always surprised that arts and music and culture don't seem to come up. You know, a lot of it's in the being, but that's so much part of our soulfulness. So I'd add art, culture,
Great.
theater.
Yeah, yeah. I see arts and creativity is another thing that often comes up, but I haven't seen music a lot. So it's really wonderful, Bill, that you've added that and now added it to the one we're going to share with people whenever we run one of these meetings.
I find when I get really stressed, sitting down, playing music or writing music takes me to a nice, safe place.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, thank you, Bill. Great, Jill. Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned that that sort of business and so on wasn't a feature in this particular group, and arguably some of the characteristics in there would lead to this, but something around fair trade.
Great.
Ethical business, fair trade, that kind of
Fantastic.
Yeah, let's call it fair trade.
Lovely.
Laura's circle seems very full already.
I think she can do some magic with the font size, but I don't know. That's amazing. You know, there's one that I didn't see, but it may be up there, that comes out of more of a business orientation often, and that's vitality, just simply vitality. So wonderful. Anybody else? Jeanette, yes.
I think I'm going to have to put in a word for art supplies. I don't do music, but if you have paint and water and paper and pens and markers, I'll have to put that in. If there's music, I need that.
Fantastic. Of course, right now I want medical supplies right at this moment in America. Yeah. But wonderful, Jeanette. Thank you. Anybody else before we close on this? So you can imagine, and a bunch of you have participated in these before, but you know, the popping of ideas, and we don't spend a lot of time discussing it. We just will take an idea and put it up. Great, wonderful, put it up. Great, wonderful, put it up. And I try to be very neutral, even from my political bias, whatever. It's a benefit of meditating a lot. So I had one group that had capitalism in the golden civilization, and in that same group, someone said communism. And so I got great, you know, and put them both up there. And just figuring that, in fact, in a whole civilization, you're going to have an intermingling of different structures coming in. So I do it with that kind of approach rather than a polarizing kind of approach everywhere and in every situation that I encounter. And so far, it's worked. I can imagine getting stumped and stuck, but so far it's worked. So you can imagine the energy as this is building, and people are getting kind of excited, going, wow, you know, can we really have this? And that's pretty much where you go next. You put it all up there and you say, okay, you know, and sometimes I've shared this in the beginning. I've shared what my goal is I want to create this within a single generation. I want to do this within 20 years. All of this. You know, we've gone through this political time in my lifetime where it's compromise this, compromise that, you know, just political battles, can't do it, it's not feasible, all that kind of stuff. You know, with issues like whether it's coronavirus or the economy or it's the planet, it's time for us to come together and make it happen and make a great civilization really, really work. So my perspective is let's do it within a generation. And I see we've just added Nellie, and that's wonderful. She's been in on a number of these. Welcome back. Love to see you if you want to share your view. But so I've already prepped them that I'm going to aim for a generation. But now I remind them, a lot of them have forgotten it in the group. And the groups have been as large as 100, you know, as small as 4, 5, 6 people. You know, it's really quite wonderful to do with your family around the kitchen table. Just wonderful, you know, because all this stuff, do it with your 6-year-old. I mean, you know, just wonderful stuff comes out. They know what it is. And because a golden civilization is what comes from the best of us inside ourselves. And we know what those things are. So, so lovely. So at the end of, you know, filling it up pretty much. And with golden civilization, we let the inspiring moments run quite a bit. We're watching time always because we need to make sure we get to commitments at the end. But so at the end of the golden civilization, once it's pretty much there, we pause, ask everybody to look at it, and then go, so how would that be? In fact, and they say, yeah. And I say, well, how would it be if as a consequence of our work together in this group, assuming we're going to go on, looks like we've lost Bill briefly, assuming we're going to go on with this work together, let's say we meet once a month or once every 2 or 3 weeks. So assuming that we're going to meet and we're going to begin to engage with these other groups that are happening all over the world, what would it be like if we were actually to deliver this golden civilization into the world within a single generation? How would that be? And those of you that know the life planning model, and that's more than half of you, know that that's a frame we use. We call it lighting the torch. If as a consequence of our work, together with all these other groups gathering together, we were to deliver that golden civilization into the world within a single generation, how would that be? And you get 2 reactions. One is, wow, you know, exciting, amazing. And the other one is, oh gosh, it can't be done. You know, I mean, it's just, that would be, and one of the responses I really love, this happened in St. Louis in Ferguson, which has been a major place for racial justice issues, as many of you know, in America. In one of the most progressive churches there in Missouri. And the person said, boy, that would be scary for a lot of people. And I you know, just acknowledged it. Yeah, it'd be scary, but would it be wonderful? Oh yeah, you know, it's like, and you realize that fear is very close to excitement. Scary is very close to exciting in terms of how it actually feels inside of oneself. So, so you get the excitement going and you go, well, that's where we're aiming. Let's make it happen. I mean, that's another thing I'd say at the end. So let's make it happen. Okay. So what do we have to do? What's going to get in the way? What are the problems we have to solve? What are the obstacles that we have to solve? And so remember, before Laura takes us to that chart again, that we have then coming up this obstacles chart that is mostly filled with outer obstacles, because there's all these ones we're reading about in the press all the time. This is what Martin was saying earlier, we kind of get addicted to, we're Velcroed to. But what's been really lovely in this experience for me, because I'm as addicted as anybody else to reading all that stuff, is that very often the first things out of people's minds, out of their mouths, the first thing is fear. What gets in the way? What could get in the way? Fear. And the other thing that comes up is greed. Those two are on almost every inner circle of inner obstacles, and they're usually among the first 5 things mentioned: fear and greed. So what's been wonderful for me is seeing that people recognize there's institutional changes that have to occur, structural, systemic changes that have to occur if we're going to make this really work within a generation. But also, we got to do stuff in here, which goes back to Ed Jacobson's encouragement that we do some inner work here, that be part of the work. So let's go, Laura. Let's show everybody what we came up with, and you all can interrupt at any time. So here's the obstacles, and I let this group run, and the reason I let it run was it was a Zoom group with lots and lots of people. And we just went, and we had everybody chatting, not speaking out, but using the chat. And I don't know how Laura kept up with it all, but she did a marvelous, magnificent job. She and Natalie, I think, as well. Looks like Doyle is just entering as well. So people put up more than I normally would do. So in a normal group, knowing that we're not going to be able to tackle all of the obstacles, I might ask people to limit themselves to their top 1 or 2 obstacles, inner and outer. And that way it puts an automatic limit on. And if someone's already shared one of their obstacles, then they don't get to speak it. And that way it puts an automatic limit on those obstacles. And that limit is really valuable because you don't want people to get overwhelmed. And if everybody's picking their top 1 or 2, you're going to have a terrific list of obstacles up here. It's going to be great. And they're the ones, if they're the top 1 or 2, or top 1 or 2 in each category, inner and outer, you're going to get the ones that pretty much everybody is intrigued with and is willing to go after and do something about. And that's what you want, because you're moving toward action. This is the first meeting. It could be that in the second meeting, we go, are there other obstacles here that people have thought of or have seen? So when you're coming to a second meeting, you revisit each of these charts and see if there's something new, and give people an opportunity to bring up something, and particularly something in the obstacles that they think it's urgent, that we as part of civilization get to work on, or that we individually or as a group we get to work on. So you can bring that kind of focus. And then the other thing we do with this obstacle list is we'll take it, and if we have the time, we'll say, okay, let's vote. And everybody gets to vote for their top 2 things. And then we'll circle, if we have a flip chart, actual flip chart, we'll circle in red, or we'll put little marks by each one. And we'll count how many people are voting for what things. And then those groupings, we might further group together if they're very much the same. Like if corruption and money are 2 separate things, but people actually think of them as one, at the end we'll put, well, money and corruption, let's put it together as one focus. And so we'll get some focus for each group on what they think the obstacles ought to be that we ought to be tackling. And that lends power then to what comes next, which are the activities. So let's come back to the group as a whole and maybe share if any of you saw in that list there anything that, was there anything missing as you read through? That was a pretty comprehensive list, so you're less likely to find things missing from that list. But usually the inner obstacles, I summarize them. I just wrote a piece on how to transform institutional life in the world. And it's about expanding a fiduciary standard to many different things, including environment and democracy and all the rest. And I summarized in that document that those obstacles, the inner obstacles, typically come down to fear and greed, and then some kind of prejudice, some kind of attachment to a belief system that excludes certain sets of people. And that those tend to be what the inner obstacles look like. And the external obstacles tend to have corruption in them, tend to have something to do with hierarchies of power. But did you see, was there something missing as you read through them that you'd like to share? Or would you like to share any comment at all about this portion of the Golden Civilization conversation?
I had just one thought. There was the fear of change, but maybe nested in that is fear of law.
You just broke up.
Be loved ones, property.
Oh, yeah, fear of loss as well. Yes, yeah, lovely, Bill. Yeah, lovely. We'll put that in. Thank you. Anybody else? Mary, you've unmuted. Do you have something you want to add here in this section?
Well, just a comment, not to be intimidated by that list. It was the first time I'd seen it, and boy, those of you who know Laura, I can imagine all the things that we're going through as she, just the wording of it was so beautiful. And I mean, scientism, that was a very interesting word that popped up. Wonderful things come up and everything goes. But I have a question on it, and maybe it's to you, Laura. I noticed some of the words in bold, some of them capitalized. How I'm trying to envision now virtual meetings. Could you speak to how, I don't know if you want to get into the technical part, George, but this was the question that came up for me.
Absolutely. We want everybody here to be able to lead these better than they have in the past, or if they've never done one, to begin to think about how they might. So wonderful question, Mary.
Yeah, Mary, I'd be happy to answer. So some of the reasons that certain words or phrases are in bold is because they were repeated multiple times. And if somebody, I think, mentioned it so if it was done twice, it's in bold. If it was 3 or 4 times, it's a little larger. And that in that way, we can represent each individual voicing of an obstacle, but also not have it repeated multiple times. Does that make sense?
So in real time, you would bold it. I mean, you would hear fear, fear, for instance, and you would bold it as soon as you heard it the second time.
Yeah, I would.
Are you writing as there?
Yeah, and one of the recommendations that I would have is that just as George is the main facilitator for this meeting, having somebody else available to do the typing into a PowerPoint or some other form of a chart that's easily shared. What we had for this meeting was people sharing in the chat window. So they weren't actually saying anything out loud, though of course that's recommended because we want to hear people's voices. But in the chat, it was just a copy and paste, and it was a lot coming at me. So what I love working with George, because when we go to the full group, I can actually do a lot of that work behind the scenes, and you're not able to see me like sweating it, making sure that everything's in there, because he's still engaging that conversation. But I'm able to copy and paste and get all of the information into the group, and then we go to the slide, and maybe it's not exactly perfect. I mean, when people slow down, that makes it easier, but there's so much energy that comes from these conversations that's what we really want to capture. And it's always possible to share this afterwards with the group so that everyone's voice is heard, but we are able to keep the meeting going in the moment.
Well, it was fabulous.
Wonderful description. And it sounds like Nandish has also something he wants to add.
It was just a question, like, so you know how you said when many people use the same word, you bold it. So what I was thinking is, if someone mentioned a word And even if I had that word, I wouldn't have said it because they've already said it. So then you clarified that it was on the chat. So even if people had the same word, you could see.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. It was because it was done via chat. And I agree that usually when someone voices something, you don't want to add to it. But that's why I love what George says about afterwards. After everything's up there on those charts, you have the opportunity for people to select what are those priority obstacles. And then you can create something where it's highlighted differently and people can tally next to it. Because it's really important that each person in these conversations has a voice and it's being recorded.
Definitely. I remember when we did that, George, when I was telling everyone in our classes opinions.
It was amazing, Nandish. It was I mean, the group was from all over the world, and they had, as I said, they came together. This was a business school, but they were from all over the world. They were clearly entrepreneurial.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, they're just, everybody's trying to figure
investment society. So everyone there would have been normally just focused on investment and business. And then you came and completely changed the game up for everyone. Like most people, especially like I've always been quite mindful, but what you presented, I've never heard anyone speak with that much passion about something so honorable. And I'm sure many people in that class as well never ever were spoken to just make a better civilization. Like you don't ever meet someone and ask them, what do you want to do? And they say they want to improve humanity. That's not the normal conversation. So when you mentioned that's what you want to do, I think that really caught a lot of people's attention. Like this is something very different.
Yeah, wonderful. That thank you for that, Nandish. It's really a testimonial to the conversation, because anybody doing it is going to be inspiring people in just that way. It's really very special, and it was an incredible group. It was inspiring for me to be with them, with all of you, because the age range was relatively young.
Yeah.
I mean, probably an average age of 23, 24, 25, maybe?
I'd say 21, 19, 20.
21, 20. And as I say, from all over the world. So you had this energy, and of course the idealism, and gosh, we could really do this. And what we're stimulating here is entrepreneurial energy.
I'd like to say as well, out of all of the like sessions they had, yours is one of the most packed I've seen throughout the year. So many people turned up compared to other ones. So you really struck a chord.
Wow. We miss Ashley because he's now kind of gone on to another realm, but hopefully Leanne Liu will bring us back to do it some more there. Yeah, great. Thank you, Nandish. So I think you're getting the idea, and it is good when I gave this in person, occasionally I would fill in the flip chart as I'm going, but I don't like doing that because I like holding the audience and connecting with them. And if you turn away from them to the flip chart, you're not as able to do that. Around a kitchen table, I can imagine doing it. I'm scribbling down, we all know each other, kind of that kind of environment. I could easily imagine doing it, but otherwise it's better, and the larger the size goes, the better it is to have someone else kind of doing the scribing, so to speak. So so wonderful. Anything else on this piece before we go on to commitments and action steps? And I want to just acknowledge that we've got some new entries here of Grace Smith and Doyle Brown. Nellie came in a little while ago, and Rohan, I think, has been listening from all the way from India. It's late at night in India. Thank you for coming. And I'm open for comments at any time, but I think we're heading toward the next phase of how you kind of close the meeting. Shall I move there? Yeah? Okay, good. So let me just introduce it before Laura brings it up. So remember, there were 3 flip charts. The final flip chart is moving from obstacles to action steps. And the first thing we do is we ask, so what are the actions that you think need to be taken? actually, we often ask, what are the top 1, 2, or 3 actions you think that could really help bring about this golden civilization within a generation? What are the top things that would really make a difference quickly to make this happen?
Work
And
on climate.
Bill, yes.
Yeah, climate change is a real game changer for everyone. So, you know, that's got to be a priority for everyone.
Absolutely. And I'm going to show you what everybody said. And my hunch is climate change is in there. Action, it certainly was in there in the vision and in the obstacles phase. So I assume it'll be here. So we ask for these actions that feel that we need done. And then we close with, what are your personal commitments? So let's first look at the actions. We'll look at them both together, but you'll see there's a slight difference between them. Personal commitments are ones you're willing to make. So let's just look at them, survey them for now, read them, take time to read them. And you'll see there's a lot about environmental stuff here. So look at them both. And I'm not sure that climate change as such, those words aren't used here. And so that's something we might add, Laura, act on climate change. So look at both the commitments and the action steps. And as I say, we'd lead with action steps. We might do a vote on the action steps because we've got a group. And so we want to see where the group is falling down. And one of the beautiful things about getting a vote on action steps, if people can see each other and can see how they're voting, is you're building subgroups within the Golden Civilization community. So maybe 5 people want to be really engaged on climate change right now. Maybe, 7 people really want to be engaged making political change happen right now in 2020. Maybe, as I say, 2 or 3 say, homelessness is the big thing I want to make a difference in. So you begin to get those subgroups. And so that's really wonderful to see that and to vote on action steps. And the great thing about having another meeting in 3 or 4 weeks, 2, 3, 4 weeks, is you come back and you can focus on what you voted on in each of these areas and deepen. And the commitments are where people are making progress. So if you look at the commitments here, you'll see that these are things people have said, I'm going to do this. And usually we ask for commitments to things that they hadn't quite committed to before. So these are new things that came up as a consequence of the Golden Civilization conversation. So here we've got someone stopping eating animals, someone teaching mindfulness, someone writing lawmakers to take brave stands, someone planting taro, talking about environment, someone adding 1 new step each week per day. As someone who's going to join grassroots groups who hasn't done that yet. So these are all commitments to take more time, commitments to walk the walk. So, and usually we try to drill down a little bit. And if someone says, well, walk the walk, and we might gently, without shaming them or pushing them, just say, do you have an example? Because then it's specific for the next time when we meet again. Or time, ask them, what do they mean? What kind of time? And it may be that they're going to take a half hour a week, or it may be they're going to take a half hour a day or more. So let's come back to the large group and share that one of the commitments that we usually, I play a kind of a leading role, a facilitating role around commitments. I want a particular commitment to come out of the group. And I'd like it to come out multiple times. So like right now, I'm looking at all of you, if we're making commitments, I'd want 1 or 2 of you, maybe 3 or 4, to say, well, I'm going to try one of these. in the next few weeks. And then I'd be thrilled if you did to unpackage it with the group support afterwards, so that you get all this new flavor of what happened and what could have happened and how it could have been fine-tuned and what you could do next. So we really want to be a support group, is what I know myself and Mary and Laura, we really want to be a support group for you and help you out. So that's something we kind of, in a normal group, even it's a family group over the dining room table, I'd say, I'm hoping that 1, 2, or 3 of you are going to say, I'm going to try one of these between now and when we come back. And so we get, but whatever commitment you have, again, we don't want to shame people. We don't try to push. I'm not doing a hard sell. I don't want to push people and make people feel uncomfortable. I want people to come back. This is participative democracy. So I want people to come back for their own reasons. But I do play a little bit of a salesman there, because if we can get multiple groups happening all over the world, we've got a chance of making a difference as a structure for democracy that isn't just codependent on who we elect and then get disappointed by. So that's kind of the notion here. So we then close with that, action steps, which are kind of exciting and a little edgy, and then commitments, which feel like they're coming from people's places of authenticity. I'm not going to say grow taro, but how wonderful that someone says that they're going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So, you get to celebrate this flourishing of humanity in this group. Wonderful thing. Comments, questions?
I have a comment, and one thought I had when I was looking through the commitments, maybe some subcategories, and again, could be not necessarily listed, but people could think about them, because how do these commitments relate to friends, family, and strangers? There may be certain things do a little differently, but apply some of these things, just thinking, oh, do you know this person? Should you know this person? Is this a part of the family? Are there things that you could do with them that you may not make commitments to other people? So that's just maybe some subcategories that I thought might be, you could think about those while you're looking at those.
I love your thoughts, Bill. And this one is really exciting to me, because I can imagine in the second or third or fourth meeting, as you've developed what you're doing and all this kind of thing, opening that up as a whole line of conversation for people in every category to be thinking about. Who are we outreaching to and why? And are there ways of facilitating that more strongly in certain ways, more intimately in other ways? I love the idea and the deepening that might bring to the conversation. Yeah, I don't know if that's what you were thinking, but you're on mute.
Yeah, I was trying to nod my head, but yes, that was my line of thinking.
Great.
Thank you.
I love it. Yeah, thank you, Bill. Anybody else?
One of mine, so I have a few friends that are they are also quite self-aware of their surroundings, and they want to push good. So one of my commitments I've written down is to reach out to my friends who I know that are interested in changing the world, to speak, and giving them a meeting like this, like going through it with them and seeing what they think. One thing I wanted to ask, so when our university was still open, me and Duart, who we both attended the call, we was meeting up to practice with each other, and then finally actually present it. But then by the time we were getting ready, everything kicked off and the university closed. But now, how would you go about finding new people, especially now since you can't go in physical, in person? How would you say is the best way to reach more and more people?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Nandish, and I wonder if other people have some thoughts as well. But what I would probably do is reach back out to your friends, because you're connecting. You can connect on Zoom right now, and say, you know, I'm really still really interested in this, and say that George is offering these ongoing, you know, classes to fine-tune the skills and to strengthen, so we actually have more access to him than we ever had before. Would you like to join me in making something happen? And then getting together with that person or those 2 or 3 people, and seeing if each of you has any kind of pods of communities that you could reach out to and just say, this is really wonderful. And I think Laura's, you know, resources, obviously, one of the ways, of course, is to really pitch it in a way that is exciting and inspiring, and I know we've done our best on our websites, but again, we'd love to, if you got a couple of people and you all came on, we'd love to kind of brainstorm with you to think.
So you know these calls every 3 weeks. So every 3 weeks, it's basically to how to do this call. So every 3 weeks, it'll basically like a run through on how do you create your own calls.
Yep, and sometimes it goes in different directions. Like, you know, Bill's suggestion of a family, we might end up spending 20 or 30 minutes just on that one area. So, and what we want to do is use active groups when they're available to move forward. So if you guys were coming in with an active group or an approach to an active group, we would give you the floor more than anybody else, pretty much, because everybody's going to be curious, how are you doing it? And it's going to be stimulating in their minds how they might reach out and do it. So if there are multiple groups doing it at once, all the better. Wonderful, we'll feed off each other. So that's my thought. I think that's the best way I can help. I'll
definitely try and bring my friends onto the next call, so at least they can get the professional outlook on it rather than my butchered one.
I don't think you'd butcher it at all. And also just keep in mind, everybody, because Nandish is, of course, we all are a little fearful and a little modest about it all, but the model is so simple. Just 3 flip charts. A little bit of inner listening at the beginning. 3 simple flip charts. We do have our trick questions, like, you know, what could get in the way, and you know, what if we were to deliver this in a generation? But those are very minor things. They're on our website. If you forget them, big deal. There's the flip charts themselves speak volumes to what is possible for humanity, because this golden civilization is what we all want, and we all know the problems. So it's pretty incredible. Yeah, bring them, Nadish. And if they don't come back, and I'd love to see you again.
I definitely will.
Yeah, good. Anybody else on this?
Oh, of course, I see this right now. I mean, it is not lost on me that in these times where, as Martin was saying, we can get stuck with the Velcro of the bad news. If you look at this group from all over the planet right here, that in itself is so opening to the discussion, because we know that thoughts and ideas are coming from all around the globe right now. So imagine if we could have different participants at our local group and the groups we gather. So I would say, I want to invite those of you on the call maybe to my next meeting. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we can do that? Nandish, I would love to be invited to any, and I've said this before, any of you doing any of these, I would love an invitation. And it's in no way to see what kind of a job you do. It's so selfish, because there's so much wholeheartedness that comes to these conversations. They're inspiring every time I attend one. But I just want anyone to know that I would sincerely love an invitation to any of the groups you put together. And please, you can say yay or nay, should I invite you to any of the groups I do? Because I think it's valuable. I think it's a visible sign of we're opening up here. Yeah. Look what we can do. Look what we can do. Something we've never been able to do before.
Yeah.
You know, someone's here from India, someone's here from the UK, Jillian's holidaying in France. I mean, it's crazy what we have right here on this screen. not everyone's exposed to it. I don't want any of us to take it for granted. So that's.
Yeah, and I want to make a pitch for it all, but right now I want to make a pitch for Mary because what an addition she would bring to any golden civilization conversation you would have. You can see how inspiring she is and how inspired she is and what a great positive presence. So please don't hesitate. Yes, Jeanette.
I just wanted to say she used the word reopening, and this is a safe reopening.
Yeah, it is.
We've got the mess going on where the reopening is igniting this infection. So
Right.
I just really keyed on that word and was noticing that that's one of the other things that's possible, because the technology is this far and this accessible. I'm trying to do a birthday party for my mother-in-law, who's 94, and my mother, who's 81. And I'm gonna do it. And I don't know, I'm not sure, like my own family maybe, my mother-in-law, I'm not so sure, but whatever, we'll try. We're gonna give it a go. And I mean, I'm not saying a golden civilization, but it's the concept of being connected without the downside.
Yeah, beautiful, Jeanette. And that reminds me, you got these two groups coming together. Why not pitch a golden civilization to them? I'm just going to throw that out there as a wild idea. But the thing that I'd like to, because we're coming near closing time, and I want to know. Let's stick to the model. We've been active in so many ways. We've considered the golden civilization in all these different ways. Do any of you have? Are any of you feeling inclined to a commitment like Nandish is, whether it's around golden civilization or anything else that has come up because of the inspirational nature of our conversation together and the communal nature of our conversation together? Are any of you inclined to any kind of commitment between now and, if you're coming back in 3 weeks, which we'd love to have you come back to our meeting 3 weeks from now?
May I talk, George? I might be talking a little bit out of turn because I had another Zoom meeting which was quite important for me, and that's why I've come in late. So forgive me if I'm not spot on. But I have been doing some amazing things during the last 3 months, which I couldn't have done had it not been for COVID. And I've been active in an organization called the University of the Third Age. And I don't know if you're familiar with it, but basically it's an organization where retired people get together and they share their expertise, and anybody who's got any skills can offer those skills. And I've been running groups for some time, which I call conscious aging.
Wow.
And I think that's why I was interested in your golden civilization, because there's a lot of synchronicity in what you're doing and what I'm doing. And I've been incredibly excited because whilst over the past 15 years, I've only invited people to my groups who've been around my dining room table, I've become international.
Oh.
And I've also become national and international. So U3As exist in South Africa, around the country. And through Zoom, I've been a pioneer in joining U3A groups together.
Wow.
And I'll tell you what my topic is for my next meeting, which is a little bit parochial, but I think it fits into the framework. So I happen to live in South Africa. And as you can imagine, what's been going on in America with Black Lives Matter has strung a very resonant chord, because we've had our own racial problems. And I have been discussing in conscious aging our reactions to COVID and how we've coped and what are our coping mechanisms and that sort of thing. So I thought I'd quite bravely direct a conversation to how are we re-evaluating our thoughts and our attitudes around racism, having heard what's going on in America.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful.
And Mary, you're invited. I've written you a note in the chat. All I need is your email address. And if anybody else would like to come, put your email address in the chat and you're invited. And you can come and talk about racism in your country and how your attitudes towards prejudice have changed and what are your reflections on Lives That Matter. Why did it become such a big thing now? There have been lots of Black lives that have been lost at the hands of white policemen in the last few months, but now this particular one has resonated. What is it all about?
Wonderful.
And so this is what I am doing. And as I say, I've had people from Prague and Italy and all over Australia, all over the world coming to my meetings. Now I'm hoping to have some of you.
Wonderful, Grace. Well, thank you for that. That sounds like a wonderful commitment. And I just want to say two things related to it and then open to others to have a chance to say something at the end here as well. Two things. One is that you're in good company with Mary Zimmerman because one of her Golden Civilization conversations was all, I think, for people over age 70 or 75. And so it was really a wonderful kind of community, like the community that you're working with as well. And then the other thing that I wanted to say is that I've been talking with another of our facilitators of Golden Civilization Conversations, a man named Julian Powell, and a number of you know him or know of him in England. And he and I have been talking about this question of racism a great deal. And one of the things that we've been talking about, because we've heard this and seen it in editorials and talked about it with others, is a lack of vision of what the golden civilization of a racism-free society looks like. And that is a golden vision. And so you could also imagine, just as Bill South was suggesting, that we do something, you know, around different frames of who we're delivering to. We could also choose one area like racism and do a golden civilization conversation in regard to that theme, using the structure of the 3 flip charts.
Well, so, George, I must share with you another experience.
Well, I want to make sure I have time. I've only a few minutes left, Grace, and I want to make sure that other people have a chance. I'd love to hear. I hope you'll come back and share more. And but let me see if other people have something that they'd like to close with around commitments or anything else. Anybody else like to share?
George, this is Doyle.
Hi, Doyle.
I apologize for being late. My time zones are messed up. I wanted to be on this call because I want to learn to do these meetings and carry them forward, both into my community as well as through the Zoom to reach that larger audience.
Great, man, great. Is there something you'd like to say about a commitment between now and the next time we meet in 3 weeks, say?
Yes, I would like to invite the members of my prayer practitioner community at the Center for Spiritual Living in Reno to attend a meeting. My other commitment is that I go back and listen to the recording so that I get all of the details.
Fabulous, fabulous, Doyle. And I know, I saw that you came on just an hour after we started or something. I don't know, something. And anyway, I'm very glad that you came on, and you're one of my favorite people in the life planning community. So I'm very glad to hear from you. And I do want to say that we'll be here to support you at every level. And so our follow-up meetings, I don't know if you heard me, but if you give a meeting and you want to share how it went, or if you've started your outreach and you want to share how that goes, we're happy to support you in each of these facilitated conversations going forward.
Super.
Great. Wonderful. Thanks so much for sharing. Anybody else want to say something in closing? Well, we have 3 minutes. Grace, if you can put yours into a minute or two and give Laura and me a minute or two to wrap up, that would be wonderful.
Well, I was just going to report to you that there's an amazing program that's been initiated by TED. You know what TED is? It's called TED Circles. And I've made myself a facilitator of TED Circles. And as a result of that, I was invited to a meeting this week. And they happened to choose a TED film which was on the topic of racism. And what for me was most exciting about this meeting was that people were there from all over the world, and they all introduced to the group their particular problems with racism, whether it was in Hong Kong or Malaysia or different parts of Italy. And there were so many different nuances that it was really very exciting.
Beautiful.
So
yeah.
There are venues for this sort of work.
Beautiful. It is very exciting indeed. Wonderful, Grace. Thank you. Any final words? Laura, anything you want to, you think we should close with?
Well, just let everyone know that we have been recording this, and we will share it with this group as well as others that signed up for the session, but we're just not able to be here in person. And I'll also share resources, because we do encourage you to go out and do these conversations around the kitchen table, even if it's a technological table, as well as any groups that you're already part of. This is a perfect addition to a board meeting, to just a friends gathering. So go out there and try this. As George says, it is a simple structure, and we really want to be able to help you workshop these afterwards so that we can all learn from your experience. And please reach out with any questions or additional resources that you might be seeking that would help you, because I'm here, as well as a few other staff members with the Kinder Institute, to support your role as a facilitator.
Great. I love seeing so many good friends here. Thank you for coming. New friends as well. Rohan, looks like Rohan's trying to connect to audio. I don't know whether he has or not. I don't hear him, but maybe next time he'll share something from India. Thank you. I really look forward to it. It was a wonderful meeting. Look forward to hearing from you again. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Nice to meet you guys.
Nice to meet you.
Bye. Good to see you all.
Bye. Yeah.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Thanks, Joel.